We are very active in our church. Both Miles and I love being a part of the worship team. Music is on at our house 24/7 almost, so we're constantly dancing and singing in our house.
He's just a very positive person to be around. That's always been my impression of him. Anytime he walks into a room, you can just feel the room just brighten up because Miles is there.
The first thing that hit my crew was we had never seen a debris field like we did at this incident.
I was dodging car parts, tires, transmissions.
The passenger door was actually deformed from what appeared to be him exiting the vehicle through the passenger door.
We knew that this was high speed, high impact, and we knew that we needed to take care of business and get going.
You know, I could see him breathing and just kind of a blank stare.
He's almost face down on his right shoulder and he's leaking blood everywhere. He's got a pretty good gash wound on the side of his face, side of his head. His hip wouldn't look good. His foot's going the wrong direction. His hand is mangled. He's leaking. This guy's got hit so hard, there's no way.
Miles had a lot of lacerations to the face and then also to the side. But a lot of his injuries we felt like were probably on the inside that we couldn't see.
I knew something was wrong because Miles's boss, Sean, sent me a Facebook message that said I needed to call him as soon as possible. Drove the kids over to daycare. I remember Ellie, my sweet, sweet Ellie, kept looking at me and saying, "Mommy, are you okay? Mommy, are you okay? What's wrong?" And just trying to reassure her that everything was going to be okay, but not knowing what I was going to find out as soon as I hit those hospital doors.
It was pretty obvious that he had multiple systems injured. And so we rapidly did a few things to try to stabilize him. And Miles had a really severe and obvious injury on a leg, on his ankle. It was open, dislocated, fractured. He also had some signs of trauma to his abdomen and pelvis, which is one of the next things we were going to try to assess is what was going on internally. During his CAT scan, his blood pressure started to drop, and we also, on that scan, saw active intra-abdominal bleeding. And so we decided we needed to go right to the operating room to control those things, knowing that he also had some other injuries that we were not going to be able to take care of here in Grand Island, and we're going to need to ship him to Bryan for their help in managing long-term.
You know, as a pastor, you hate getting these kind of phone calls. And so that morning, kind of made the decision with Pastor Drew that we need to get over to Grand Island and just kind of just see what was going on.
We knew that at that point that it was a pretty bad wreck because it started making the news rounds. And by the time we got there, right up to the entrance, we could see the helicopter flying out. And we kind of knew, oh, that's Miles.
Truthfully, the first time they told me they were getting ready to transfer him to Lincoln, my first thought was, thank you. I knew he was going someplace where they were specially trained to take care of the needs and the injuries that he had.
The first thing we noticed was the smell of gas around the street clothes. We knew he had a punctured lung, so we immediately placed a chest tube because that could kill him in seconds. He was bleeding from his spleen. He had his colon in two halves. He had multiple injuries to the blood supply to his intestines. He had a pelvic fracture. His ankle was open. The patient had an injury in practically every system of his body. Our goal was to stop the bleed, save this life, and deal with every other problem that comes.
When we got to Lincoln, he was already taken down to IR and OR to do a second emergency surgery on his abdomen, and Okeson came out to talk to us for the first time, and he probably gave me the most hope ever to have a surgeon come down and get face to face with me and say, "Do you have faith?" And I said, "Yes." And he goes, "With all things, not some, all things. We're gonna get your boy back and it's gonna be okay." And to have a surgeon realize how important that is, I knew we were in good hands.
The first time I saw Miles, he was in an induced coma in the ICU. I was able to fix his pelvis after he was stabilized. His break was in 2 very large pieces and lots of smaller pieces around. So all the muscles get elevated off of the bone here, and his abdominal muscles get taken off of the side here. And he was fixed with multiple screws in here to hold these pieces together so that they could heal.
He sustained an open fracture that was in a lot of pieces to his left ankle. The appearance was enough, even for those of us that see trauma on a daily basis, to initially wonder if it was even possible to save his foot. Miles had some pins and bars attached to his leg for about a week while we continued to clean out the wound and let the skin calm down from the injury. And then he had to undergo a second surgery to remove the external fixation device. And at that time, that's when we really kind of put the pieces of the puzzle back together and apply some plates and screws that stay in there forever.
There were quite a few up and downs when we were still in ICU.
It was very, very difficult for her. This was a patient with multiple injuries and also had a traumatic brain injury. At one point, he didn't know who she was. No family member wants to go through that, especially your husband.
If you know Miles, you know he knows way too many musical trivia facts. And I knew he was making a recovery because something was said about some music genre, and here he is spitting out sentences and stories about, well, this musician did that, and this musician did that, and well, did you know who wrote this song? And that's when I looked at the nurses and I was like, he's gonna be fine. He remembers all of his trivia. He's gonna be fine.
It was amazing to me how well Miles was not only able to process what had happened to him, but keep a positive attitude and be determined to return to a normal level of function. He's got a beautiful family, and they are very supportive as well. And I think he knew that he was going to get better for those kids no matter what it took, and he certainly did.
Baby steps when he started to move around with physical therapy. You could see that slow movement. The icing on the cake was when he walked into clinic, and the wife was just like smiling because she knew we had that connection. I told her from the first day, you're going to get your boy back.
I'd say now life is pretty much what it was before the accident. Miles is still limited on what he can do some physically, but the kids are loving having Daddy home.
I think the first time when I saw them come back and they're on the front row and they're worshiping, it was just, it's inspiring to see that.
The excitement that was in the room. I mean, people actually cheered, seeing him. And just when we actually acknowledged that he was here that morning, his first time back, it was a truly special moment.
I get a lot of joy out of the little things now that I didn't used to even think of. Like, my favorite thing to do is to rock my son to sleep right now, because I have the chance to do that.
For me, it's eye-opening to make me appreciate my family, my kids, just to know that at any moment, any of our lives can dramatically change.
I think you just really, you see the value of that relationship even more so, because when you realize, what could have been lost, essentially. For myself personally, I just really value Miles, I think, a lot more in that friendship, and just his great sense of humor, and just the ability. He really has a heart to help people, even with me and my guitar sounds.
I'm just honestly thankful to be here. I just have a lot of respect for everybody involved in the situation, and I probably didn't realize how important those people were until being involved in an accident like this.